Early in my career, I was a patent attorney, and that meant I wrote a lot of legal documents to protect inventions. And I remember working on a patent for a neural network, and it was trying to mimic the way our brains learn. That was over 20 years ago, if you can believe it. And I remember thinking, wow, this is some really nerdy math. And that nerdy math is everywhere, right? It's changing everything for us. It is remarkable where we are 20 years later. And I want to start there with this idea of change. AI changes not our infrastructure first, right? It changes the pace of change. It's changing that pressure to change. Are some of you feeling it a little bit? And importantly, it changes the conversation from should we use AI to how do we use AI without losing what makes us human. And no matter how advanced AI becomes, right, it will never be human. It will never love, it will never grieve. It will never feel embarrassed when it forgets its line in front of a room full of strangers and they all pretend to notice, right? And I remember when apps first came out. That was a long time ago, y'all. I've been around a long time. And my 7-year-old picked up my iPhone and he opened one of the apps. And on the app was a beach scene. And he looked at it and he saw this grass. It was waving back and forth on the beach. And he leaned in and he blew on the glass because he literally thought his breath would move the grass. And what I love about this moment is his mind had not yet learned to limit the possibilities, right? He wanted technology to work with his logic in his world. And that's the spirit I'd like for us to bring into this conversation today and throughout Innovation Week. I know a lot of us are feeling like AI is driving us. And today I want to challenge you to put yourself in that driver's seat. Think about the problems in your work and in your life that AI can help you with. And that's the big idea today is that AI is a force multiplier for those people who know the problem they're trying to solve and they know where they want to shift their time to where it matters the most. So if AI is a force multiplier, what is it multiplying? It's not just about efficiency. It's multiplying our choices, it's multiplying assumptions, and it's multiplying all of the values of the people who are building AI, which also means that it's multiplying all of our bad decisions and assumptions and choices, right? And values. We've literally taught it all of our bad habits, and we should all be a little concerned about that. But AI learns the way we do, right? A lot of you already know that because science has been talking about AI for a while. It is learning how to detect patterns, and it does this at scale and very, very quickly. So I'm going to give you just 3 quick examples. Amazon built a hiring program, and they used AI to review resumes, lots and lots of resumes, thousands of them, to discover what indicators are correlated with those who get hired and which ones are correlated with those who don't. Well, it turns out in practice, what this meant is if you had indicators that might indicate that you're a woman, you might have women's chess club, women's group in your resume, then you had a bias against you. And luckily, somebody caught this and they abandoned the project. Facial technology recognition systems. MIT did research that showed that some recognition systems had a 33% error rate for detecting darker skinned women. It had less than 1% error rate in detecting lighter skinned men. It was more accurate for the people it had seen the most. And this is a huge problem, especially when these systems are put into law enforcement and identity verification. Okay, last example, the Netherlands child care benefit scandal. A fraud detection system taught itself that the indicator for fraud was that a family had dual nationality. So it flagged thousands of families. People lost their homes. Thousands of children were separated from their families. And it got so bad that the Dutch cabinet, all of them, resigned. It is remarkable that these are different systems, different countries, but it's the same problem, right? AI is remarkably fast at detecting bias and using that bias. And if we don't catch it, we have these massive fallouts. Now, if it were one thing, and I want to submit this to the idea box, by the way, and this is free intellectual property. I'm giving it to you for free. But what if we use AI to detect the bias in the products that we're building, right? It can detect it better than we can. We may even not even know it's there in the data. Our brains can't work that fast. But the problem is when this is introduced into world systems, solving real world problems, that's where the danger lies. And that's why this person started a nonprofit called AI for All. She wanted to get more students, more people from every background into the AI decision-making process. She built this thing called ImageNet. It has 14 million labeled images, and it's what taught AI how to visualize the world. So if AI can read an X-ray, if it can detect a face, you can show it a picture and it can tell you every detail about that picture, it's standing on her work. And she said this really important quote. She said, as an educator, a woman, as a woman of color, as a mother, I'm increasingly worried. AI is about to make the biggest changes to humanity, and we're missing a whole generation of diverse technologists and leaders. And what's exciting about AI where it is now is that we get to be part of this decision flow pipeline when we use AI. Now, you just mentioned that Gemini is being rolled out across the company. That's super exciting. It's at our fingertips. And when you use AI, you're not going to be actually training it, right? You're not going to be training, it's not going to be taking your conversations and using it to train Gemini, but you will be using it to use your perspectives and your insights to help solve problems. And when you're doing that, you're challenging bias in the system. So we're going to be thinking about leadership for the rest of the talk. And I want you to think about this question. What is one thing in your work that absolutely does need you? This question is actually a leadership question because the goal of AI is not to automate ourselves out of relevance. Okay, the goal is to automate those things that it can do quickly so that it frees us up to do the most important things that only humans can do. I know leaders right now are feeling a lot of pressure, right? We're excited that Gemini's out there, but we're busy, right? Your calendar's probably filled up even before you walked out into the door today. And we really need you, though, to be aligned with your teams. Because the thing is when you're not aligned with your teams and you delegate it, you've got one team member that's going to get excited, use Gemini, build a new process. You're going to have another team member that uses it to build yet a different process to that process. And the third member's just not going to use it and change because nobody told them they should, right? So you start to create the situation where you've got your team members operating in different directions. So I want to propose today that you lead AI as a habit. And this includes 3 things. When you get with your team, ask what problem you're trying to solve. Figure out and decide where humans have to stay in the loop. And then figure out ways for AI to do the rest. And when you align your team on these 3 things, you'll have one shared question. What did AI free us up to do? Did it free us up to do better work, more creative work? Did it to build relationships, like you said? Maybe we could spend more time brainstorming an idea to put into the idea box. Who knows? Okay, we're going to bring all this thinking that you just did together, and we're going to compose it into a plan. So these are the questions that you've been thinking about as we've been talking. I'm not going to repeat them. You'll recognize them. But I want you to now be able to put this into a plan, something that you can use. So I don't love standing up here and telling you to do something that I'm not willing to do myself. So I used AI to build an app to help us create these personalized plans. Okay, and before I show you the QR code, I'm going to just go through the 5 simple steps just to prep you. You can get your phones ready. First, you're going to scan the QR code. And this is really, really important. This is why I'm not showing you the QR code yet. Please make sure you do not put any confidential information, no Zions clients, nothing like that. This information is going outside of Zions, right? It's going to my database, and I really want to be invited back again. So please honor that, okay? All right. Select your role, individual, you might be a leader, you might be both, and then answer the 5 questions. They're very similar to what we've already talked about, so you've been a little bit primed already for this. When you get to the question that asks, what are you going to do with that time? I want you to think about it like this. If you had 10 more hours at work every month, what would you do with that time? Okay. And then you're going to enter your email. There is a Dropbox, hello. There is a drop down of all the Zions domains, so you don't have to type it in. I had no idea how many domains Zions Bancorp actually uses. Maybe you didn't either. So just go through the list. You'll be amazed at how much work this organization does. And then hit submit. You will get a personalized plan on your phone, and then you'll also get an email to do this. Hopefully, as you went through this, you got to see your work from a slightly different lens, right? Things where you are the most critical, and they might have been skills or they might have been things that you haven't really thought about out loud. I really wanted you all to have something to take away, not just like an inspirational talk, something concrete. And so I said, I want to solve that problem. I needed to use my judgment. What do I build? What should it look like? Right? Does the final outcome produce what I'm hoping will be useful for you? And of course, all of your great thinking, that was critical as well, right? To make sure it's personalized to you. And then I figured out ways for AI to do the rest. Okay. It freed me up to obviously write my keynote, give you something concrete, and also give me something concrete to model this multiplier effect that we're talking about. Okay. Can anybody guess how many hours I saved by building the app? Throw out a number. 2,000 hours? Oh, I wish. Slightly less. I mean, I just had to estimate numbers, right? Because look, the alternative to this was like build a Google form. We've all done it, right? You build the form, you send it out, you chase down all the answers, then you got to clean up the spreadsheet. Then I have to write a personal plan for each one of you. Then I have to format it, send it out to you. Then you're going to get a weekly check-in as well, and it's going to be personalized and not a mass email. That is a lot of work. I had to throw some estimations in there. I estimate that I saved 640 hours, 16 full-time weeks of work. So for every 1 hour I put in, I got over 100 hours back. And I'm going to just tell you, I am not a developer. I have never coded an app in my life. I just needed to know the problem I needed to solve, right? Use my judgment and then let AI do the rest. For the next 30 days, I want to challenge the people leaders in this room to start your team meetings with this question. What did AI free us up to do? When you talk about this, it gets prioritized. When you prioritize these things become culture. And when you're thinking about this question, you're probably thinking that this is a productivity question, but it's actually not. It's an identity question. Because how we respond to this question, it tells a lot about who we believe we are beyond the tasks. How many of you have lost your cell phone, me, and then spent the rest of the day walking around feeling like you have lost a limb, right? It's very disorienting. And that's what it can feel like as you start to offload more and more of the repetitive work to AI, right? It might feel uncomfortable. When I was practicing law, I practiced for 10 years. And I thought, well, I've written, 400 patent applications. I think I know this area of law pretty well. And I decided to take a big leap into tech startups, a totally different direction. I was super excited. And I suddenly had a massive panic attack. And it was so bad, I had to call the paramedics. And I was shocked that this was happening. I was so excited about this opportunity. And as I really thought about it, I realized that I had this internalized fear that no one would see me as significant the way they did when they saw me as an attorney. Right? So many of us, we get our identity from our roles, our titles. We get asked since we are children, what do you want to be when you grow up? Right? That's always a role. And it's a super one-dimensional question. And we're far more than our roles and our tasks. When I was 2.5, my birth father, he became injured. He couldn't provide for me and my 2 brothers. And so he decided he needed to send us to the foster care system until he could recover. He wasn't able to feed us. And so he said, you'll be taken care of there. I will come back for you. And before he sent us to foster care, he put a really large tattoo on our arms. It was a cross with 4 dots underneath it. I'm told it's a symbol of our family praying. And I'm also told it was his hope that we would never be separated. But when we got to foster care, I was separated from my brothers, and they sent me to an orphanage, and I was adopted here to Utah, where I built my life. My father did come back for my brothers. They ended up living with him the rest of their lives. And unfortunately, he passed away before I could ever meet him. I took this photo. Obviously, the one on the right, the one on the left is my brothers that when we discovered each other. I took the photo on the right and I started putting it on Facebook. I didn't know any Koreans, right? I didn't live in Korea. I did know Koreans, but I didn't know people living in Korea that could share my photo. And somebody in Korea saw it, and then they put it on a Facebook group for Koreans that were looking for lost children. And one of my family's friends saw the photo and he recognized this tattoo. And that's how I reunited with my birth family. So I want to show you the moment when I met my 2 brothers and my uncle for the very first time.
얼마나 기다렸을까? 사라, 아니 현경이가 오빠들 앞에 섰습니다. 한달음에 달려가 동생을 안아주는 작은 오빠 기태 씨.
삼촌.
만나기 전 가장 많은 대화를 나눈 작은아버지와도 뜨거운 포옹을 나눕니다.
It was a truly magical moment. Technology changed my life. I am sure that my birth father, when he put that tattoo on us, I'm sure he never even imagined that the way I would find my family was to put a digital photo on a technology platform that was built by a kid in a Harvard dorm room, right? But now that technology is at our fingertips. When we use AI, we can be the builders of technology. I built an app today. It took me 6 hours. I mean, it's nothing earth-shaking, okay? But it did build you a plan, and you can actually use that plan. And the more you lead AI as a habit, the more you're going to keep remembering why you're irreplaceable, why you matter, and that's your human edge. Thank you.